One of the characteristics common to all of the mountain men of the 1800s was a desire to explore the untamed parts of the western U.S. This desire and drive was particularly strong in the spirit of one of the most famous mountain men, Jedediah Smith. Most mountain men traveled to the Rocky Mountains and found what they were looking for. Jedediah Smith went to the Rocky Mountains, but wanted even more adventurous exploration. This is his story. Jedediah Smith was born in 1799 to a modest family in south central New York. The family moved west, first to Pennsylvania, then to Ohio. Young Smith eventually made his way to St. Louis and joined the fur company of William Ashley and Andrew Henry, and headed west in 1822 with a group of beaver trappers under the leadership of Henry. Smith's demeanor was markedly different than most of the mountain men of his day. He was very serious about his religion and didn't cuss, smoke, drink, or chase women, and was quiet and serious by nature. However, he did have a powerful build, energy, fortitude, boundless courage, and fellow trappers felt that they could invariably count on him in a crisis situation. Henry's cadre of men and boats made their way up the Missouri River to the mouth of the Yellowstone River, where they would wait out the winter. Smith decided to go further upriver and went as far as the mouth of the Musselshell River to hunker down for the winter. This began his life as a free trapper, living off the meat he harvested and any other form of sustenance he could find available. In the spring he headed back to the Henry party at the mouth of the Yellowstone River. Henry requested a volunteer to go back down the Missouri and meet up with Ashley and request that they trade for horses with the Arikara Indians. Never one to turn down a duty, Smith volunteered to be the messenger Henry needed. Little did he realize that by volunteering he would put himself into an Indian fight that would be forever famous. He met Ashley at the Arikara encampment, and they negotiated a trade for horses and 200 buffalo robes. Before they could depart the village, they were attacked by the Indians, and 12 of Ashley's men were killed. Smith's reputation as a fierce fighter was greatly enhanced as a result of the fight with the Arikaras, and he became known as Captain Smith. During a later expedition, Smith and a group of men were leading their tired horses through a thicket when suddenly a large grizzly bear appeared and attacked Jedediah. The giant animal immediately took the mountain man's head in his mouth and threw him to the ground. The bear then took after his midsection and broke not only several ribs, but his butcher knife as well. Soon several well-aimed shots from the startled party of mountain men brought the bear to his quick demise. The trappers were at a loss as to what to do about their severely injured leader. Even with his head laid open, ribs broken, and lacerations bleeding profusely, Captain Smith was able to think clearly and requested that Jim Clyman stitch up the wounds as best he could. Reluctantly, Clyman got a needle and thread, and with no experience at the daunting task, began sewing the scalp back on, as well as an ear which was barely dangling on. Clyman completed the job as best he could, and Smith survived the ordeal, and in around 10 days was able to mount his horse and continue on with his party toward beaver country. The story of Smith's grizzly encounter spread throughout the mountains, and further enhanced his status among the trappers of the era. Jedediah, along with two other capable trappers, William Sublette and David Jackson, purchased the fur company from Ashley, and he was now a partner in his own beaver trapping operation. While his two partners headed to the mountains to continue trapping beaver, Captain Smith embarked on a new frontier. Legend had it that there was a river that began south of the Great Salt Lake and flowed all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Jedediah Smith wanted to find and explore that river and headed out with a party of 17 men to attempt to discover the river and its potential bounty of beaver. Suffice it to say that a river and its untold potential for riches was never found, and untold hardships were in store for the small party of travelers. The farther west they went, the more dry and desolate the terrain became. Smith and his men almost died from thirst and starvation prior to arriving at San Gabriel, a thriving Spanish mission in California. After replenishing supplies and resting for a time at the mission, the party started the trek back toward the summer rendezvous of 1827 that was to take place on Bear Lake along the Utah-Idaho border. Again, hardships plagued the party, and reluctantly he returned to San Gabriel and left all but two of his men there and struck out again for land in the United States. The three sojourners almost died again on the return trip, but eventually made it to Bear Lake and the rendezvous. While most of the trappers were reveling in the fun and frivolity that always occurred at the summer rendezvous, the more serious-minded Smith made plans to return to California for more exploration and to pick up the men he had left behind in San Gabriel. The second trip was no less difficult than the first. On the way to San Gabriel, 10 men were killed by Mojave Indians. The depleted party eventually made it back to San Gabriel, but on the return trip, all but Smith and 3 others were killed by Kalawasset Indians. Smith now had survived 3 Indian massacres, and his career as a trapper was drawing to a close. He spent 1 more year in the Montana mountains with his partners and then returned to St. Louis in October 1830. No other man, including Lewis and Clark, had seen as much of the western U.S. as Jedediah Smith. He then agreed to lead a trading party from St. Louis to Santa Fe and the Mexican provinces. While the party of traders moved along the Santa Fe Trail, they encountered harsh drought conditions. He and 1 other companion went out scouting for water. They did discover a water hole, but also a group of Comanche Indians who attacked and killed the 2 men. Jedediah Smith's remarkable life ended at the young age of 32. During that short life, he had been the first white man to go overland to California, the first to travel the California coast north to the Columbia River, the first to cross the Sierra Nevada mountains, and the first to explore the Great Basin. When he died, he had boldly written his name in the annals of the American West. If you enjoyed this video, give a thumbs up, click on the bell for notifications of future videos, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching.